I state your name.
I state your name.
Do hereby pledge allegiance to the frat.
Do hereby pledge allegiance to the frat.
With liberty and fraternity for all.
Amen.
Wow. So, I am officially here to lower the bar. All right. Traditions are a way of thinking, behaving, doing something that's been used by the people of a particular group, family, or society for a long time. They're the things that bind us together, often unique, often intriguing, and often strange. From driving backwards across campus, bringing home sod from the field of a football foe, tapping the roof of your car as you leave campus, or rubbing Testudo's nose. Every college and university has its own quirky opportunity to create good luck, show your team spirit, or perform a rite of passage. But after 40 years plus of participation, observing, and asking around, I've come up with a brilliant thought. Just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. Like running with scissors, playing with matches, playing golf in a thunderstorm, swallowing goldfish, or running with the bulls. Daring souls have been running with the bulls for years, but in my head, putting your life at risk for a couple of minutes of adrenaline rush is not worth it. But then I'm no longer an 18 to 24-year-old with little fear of death and a seemingly high tolerance for risky behavior and risky traditions. Run, bulls. But to understand the nature of these risky traditions, we should understand the participants. At a large Midwestern institution, the faithful show their devotion to the football team by jumping in a nasty foul near frozen lake, yeah, you know who you are, in the wee hours of a freezing night in November. This year we studied the hooligans, and here's what we found. That wasn't what we expected. 51% were female, 38% had a GPA above 3.5, 15% were grad students, over 1,000 of the people jumping were international students, and though they should know better, 40 of them were from the law school. At one of the most prestigious universities in the country, there's a risky tradition called the fourth year fifth. Seniors participating in the annual drinking spree attempt to finish a fifth of liquor beginning at midnight before the last football game and finishing it before kickoff. Woo! The institution considers this a fringe event, not a tradition. But to the students, it is a tradition, and in the words of an institution spokesperson, they are certainly very bright students, but we are helping them to assess their risks. At their age, that's not their strong suit. Since the death of a sorority student in 1998, the institution has worked diligently to create alternative traditions. At one institution, they call it the annual Halloween Bash, but it's much, much more. 2 first-year students were walking across campus. One said to the other, "I can't wait to go to my first riot." Sometimes sanctioned by the university, the tradition of the Halloween Bash promises 10,000 revelers, amazing costumes, and an assortment of adult beverages. The statistics for the bash are chilling. More than 100 arrests this year. Citations for underage drinking topped 125. There were 25 hospital transports. The institution has tried to limit the behavior by limiting overnight guests, offering alternative programs, and adding $100,000 to their security budget, with limited success. Then there's Newman Day. It's a tradition at several elite institutions, and it's really simple. You drink 24 beers in 24 hours. And participants must attend all of their classes, stay awake, and not throw up. Any violation requires you to start all over. And you have to appear sober in class, so coffee, Red Bull, and dodgeball. As you can expect, no one's died from this one, so administrators have tried to change it, including sending letters to parents, scheduling alternative events, and they even asked Paul Newman to write letters to the students. Come on, Paul. On the campus of a Mid-Atlantic institution, we saw preparations for a festival. That night, the basketball team would face our arch rivals, and we were preparing for an alternative event. The students had their usual risky tradition planned, and the results were 45 arrests, at least one for punching a police officer's horse. It was disconcerting to watch police in riot gear descend upon our students, but the students had set fire to trash cans and trees, thrown chunks of ice at the police, and tried to flip a bus. The victory celebration was once again out of hand despite months of our planning an alternative event. Now here comes the downer. Sorry. At one Southwestern institution, there's a 100-year-old tradition called bonfire. It takes months to build and is lit before the big football rivalry game. It's not your average bonfire, for in its heyday it stood 109 feet tall and could be seen 25 miles away. It's an amazing but very risky tradition. It involves thousands of hours of toil by devoted students. For 80 years, there had been minor injuries, collapses, and a few deaths. Faculty and administrators became concerned about safety and in 1989 restricted the height of the bonfire and started looking for alternative events, but the students wanted to build it and some began drinking. At 2:42 on November 18th of 1999, the unthinkable happened. During construction, the bonfire collapsed. Of the 58 students working, 12 were killed and 27 were injured. Rescue operations took over 24 hours as they carefully removed the logs. John Comstock was the last living person removed. The institution was blamed in the name of tradition. Administrators had turned a blind eye to alcohol, unsafe horseplay, an unsafe structure, and minimal safety protocols. Lawsuits cost the institution millions, with courts agreeing that we as administrators had created a dangerous event and were indifferent to the students' safety. But there's hope. We can change these dangerous traditions. Many will scream loudly when you cancel or change their traditional rites of passage. One institutional president saw the risk and moved to end a tradition. He would end the naked quad run before a student died. Instead of cajoling or creating an alternative event, the president announced that any student who participated in the naked quad run would be suspended. The students were creative in their protests. Instead of running naked, they donned costumes and excessive clothing, creating their new tradition, the overdressed stroll. We can change traditions. Thank you.